Howdy, folks, and welcome to day 31 of the Boat RV 100 series. I'm Joe Downs with Storage Moguls, and today I'm going to walk you through the final stretch from the signed purchase and sale agreement to the day you get the keys. But this is where deals die that should have closed and where surprises surface that nobody planned for. Knowing what to expect is how you keep your deal together. I'll be straight with you. The closing period is not the finish line. It's the operationally intense 30 to 45 days of the entire acquisition. It's the most operationally intense. You're managing attorneys, lenders, inspectors, appraisers, and a seller who may be having second thoughts simultaneously. The operators who can close clean are the ones who stay in front of every step. If you want everything we cover in this series backed by a community of people actually doing it, come find us at storagemoguls.ai. We're a community of real operators sharing what actually happens in the field, not what the textbooks say. A mogul isn't just someone who holds a deed. The definition of a mogul is a sophisticated operator of assets, someone who's mastered the full arc from finding a deal to running one. And that's what we teach because that's what we do. We don't just buy storage, we acquire and we optimize. And there's a difference. And that difference tends to be worth tens of thousands of dollars per deal. We're real people, couplepreneurs, solopreneurs, and entrepreneurs, just like you and me. Nobody here is selling a dream from a stage they have stepped off years ago. We're actively evaluating deals from the $400,000 to the $2 million range every day. Deals that are financeable, digestible, and we'll show you how. You can start for free and advance at your own pace. All right, let's get into the closing process. To get a deal closed, we've got 7 milestones across 40 to 45 days. Map these before you sign the PSA so you know what you're committing to and when each deadline falls. Day 1, PSA is executed, both parties have signed, earnest money is wired to escrow, and the due diligence clock starts. Every subsequent deadline is measured from this date. Day 1 to 5, lender application should be happening. Submit your full lender package immediately. Order the appraisal on day 1 if possible. Appraisal turnaround is one of the longest lead times in the closing process. A 1-week delay in ordering that appraisal can push your closing by a week. You don't want that to happen. Day 1 through 14, active due diligence, site measurements if you don't have them, financial review, legal confirmation, environmental clearance. Everything from the day 22 checklist gets completed in this window. From days 14 to 21, that's our due diligence contingency release. You remove contingencies or negotiate an extension. When contingencies are released, earnest money typically goes hard, meaning it's no longer refundable. So know this date precisely. Days 15 to 35, lender underwriting. The appraisal comes in, the title search is underway, and your lender's in the middle of a Q&A on your package. Respond to every lender request within 24 hours. Delays in responding compound closing delays. Days 35 to 40 is your closing prep, title commitment review, final walkthrough scheduled, settlement statement reviewed for accuracy. This is where errors get caught before they become problems at the table. And then days 40 to 45, you're at the closing table or leading up to it. You're wiring funds, you're signing docs, the deed's recorded, and congratulations, you're now the owner. For the PSA, there's 6 provisions specific to boat and RV acquisitions that are the clauses that some attorneys miss and that protect you from the specific ways this asset can surprise you post-close. Seasonal occupancy representation being one of them. The seller represents that the 24 months of monthly occupancy and revenue data they provided is accurate and complete. This isn't just a due diligence request. It's a contractual representation that creates recourse if the data was manipulated or incomplete. Amenity conditions at closing. The seller's representing that the listed amenities are operational at the time of closing. If you arrive at the final walkthrough and the gate system's broken, or the air compressor's out, or the security cameras are offline, you've got a documented representation that was not met. Negotiate a repair requirement or a price credit before you close. The waiting list transfer, if there is one. If the seller pitched a waiting list as part of the demand story, it needs to transfer with the documentation, names, dates, vehicle types, contact information. No documentation, no credit for it in the price. No new leases without approval either. This prevents the seller from signing a sweetheart lease with a friend or family member at below market rent during the closing period. Standard commercial real estate protection. Make sure it's in the contract. Tenant notification protocol. Agree in the PSA on when and how tenants are told about the ownership change. Some sellers want to tell tenants personally. Others want the buyer to handle it. Either way, get the approach documented and protect the tenant relationships you're inheriting. Prorations, which is prepaid rent, security deposits, and property taxes get prorated to the close date. The methodology, how payments, partial months are handled, or who gets credit for what, that needs to be agreed to in the PSA, not negotiated at the closing table when everyone's tired and ready to be done. The appraisal is the most common source of closing surprises on a boat and RV deal. The fix is in the preparation, not after the report comes in, but before the appraiser ever visits the site. Appraisers applies self-storage, or if an appraiser applies self-storage cap rates, a self-storage appraiser applying self-storage cap rates to a boat and RV facility will typically undervalue it. The cap rate ranges are different. Provide the appraiser with boat and RV specific comp context and cap rate ranges before they engage. Ask your lender to order an appraiser with an outdoor storage experience. This one request made before the engagement is placed is the most effective mitigation available. Because summer occupancy triggers a value reduction. An appraiser who sees 68% occupancy in the summer months without context may apply a below stabilized occupancy discount. So include your seasonal occupancy explanation, the same annotation from your pro forma. With the appraisal engagement package, the lender or the appraiser may share context with you before the engagement if you provide it. For thin comps, give the appraiser every comp you've assembled, adjacent markets, similar facility types, including the self-storage comparison frame. 3 imperfect comps are better than an empty comp section in an appraisal report. If appraised value comes in below purchase price, and this happens, when it does, you have 2 options: request a reconsideration of value with supporting data, or renegotiate the purchase price. Your written comp argument from day 19 is the document that supports the reconsideration request. Have it ready before the appraisal comes in. Here's 6 closing killers. Know all of them in advance and have a responsible plan for each. So let's talk about the low appraisal. The most common closing surprise on a first boat and RV deal. The response is a reconsideration of value request supported by your comp argument. And again, if the appraisal won't move, renegotiate the purchase price before you close, not after. Next, you got the lender documentation request. Lenders ask for additional information during underwriting. This is very normal. The risk is delay. Every day you take to respond adds a day to your closing timeline. Treat every lender request as same-day priority. Have a document checklist organized before the underwriting period even starts. Title search issues. A lien or a title defect found during the search is typically resolvable, but it takes time and sometimes requires the seller to take action. Your title company handles the resolution. Make sure they're experienced in commercial real estate, not just residential. Seller cold feet. More common than most buyers expect, particularly with owner-operators who have deep emotional ties to their facility. So keep communication warm throughout the closing period. Reference the transition plan, the care you plan to take with their tenants, the legacy they built. This isn't manipulation. It's relationship maintenance on a transaction that matters to both sides. Lender declines. The mitigation is a backup lender, but before your due diligence period expires, identify a second lender who will consider this deal. You don't need to apply, just know who you'd call. A single-threaded financing approach is unnecessary risk. Final walkthrough is your last opportunity to confirm the facility is what you contracted to buy before the deed changes hands. Don't skip it. Don't schedule it the morning of closing when you're under time pressure. Schedule the final walkthrough 2 to 3 days before closing. That gives you time to raise issues, negotiate credits, or require repairs before you're at the closing table with wired funds. Measure the drive aisles again. Surface conditions can change. A gravel lot that was in good condition during due diligence may have deteriorated. A gate that was operational may have developed a problem. Confirm everything. Test every amenity. Press the button on the air compressor. Run the rent station. Operate the gate. Check the security cameras. Check that they're recording. Operational means working, not present. Compare the current rent roll to the one from your due diligence period. Are all the same tenants there? Were any new tenants added without your approval? Did any long-term tenants leave during the closing period? Changes to the rent roll between due diligence and closing affect your day one revenue. So photograph everything with timestamps because this is your record. If a dispute arises after close about the condition of the facility at the time of transfer, your timestamp walkthrough photos are the evidence. Closing table should be the least stressful moment of the entire acquisition because everything has already been confirmed. Settlement statement, you review it line by line 24 hours before the close. Every charge, every proration, every credit. Errors in settlement statements are common, and most title companies will correct them if you catch them before the table. At the table, you're under time pressure. Corrections are harder. For wiring instructions, call the title company directly and confirm the wire instructions by phone before you initiate any wire transfer. Wire fraud, targeting real estate transactions, is a real and active threat. An email with changed wire instructions is a known attack vector. Verify by phone every time. For loan documents, request a preview copy from your lender 48 hours before closing. A commercial loan package is 150 to 300 pages. Reading it for the first time at the closing table while everyone is waiting is not due diligence, it's theater. Seller note documents. The promissory note and deed of trust should be drafted by your attorney, reviewed, and approved before you close. Both parties should have seen the documents before they sit down to sign them. Tenant notification letter. Have it drafted and ready to send the day after closing. The longer tenants go without hearing about the ownership change from you, the more likely they are here to hear about it from the seller in a way that doesn't serve your retention goals. Closing boat and RV acquisition is an active process. The deals that fall apart in the final 30 days do so because someone stopped managing the process and assumed it would close on its own. You got to manage the timeline. Map every milestone before you sign the PSA. Hit every deadline. Answer every lender request the same day you receive it. Track the appraisal engagement. Know when contingencies go hard. Protect yourself with the PSA. The Boat and RV-specific provisions, seasonal occupancy representation, amenity condition at close, waiting list transfer, no new leases without approval, exists because this asset has specific ways it can disappoint you between contract and close. So document everything. Close prepared. You want to be close prepared. Review the settlement statement the day before. Confirm wire instructions and read the loan documents before the table. Final walkthrough 2 to 3 days before closing with timestamp photos. All right, next up, day 32. First 90 days of ownership, how to take over a boat and RV facility without losing the tenants who make it worth what you paid. Please like this video if the closing timeline gave you a clearer picture of what the final stretch actually looks like, not the fantasy version, the real one. And subscribe so you don't miss day 32. The first 90 days of ownership is where deals perform or disappoint, and a lot of it comes down to decisions made in the first 2 weeks. And then please also share this with someone who's about to close their first commercial real estate deal and hasn't thought through the closing process step by step. This episode is the map they need. The deal isn't done until the deed is recorded and the keys are in your hand, so get to that moment clean. Settlement statement reviewed, wires confirmed, walkthrough done, loan docs read. StorageMoguls.ai has the closing checklist and the community of operators who've been through it. It's free to join, and if you join soon, the GPT we built for deal scenario analysis includes a closing milestone tracker built around this timeline. Section 3 is nearly complete. Day 32 opens Section 4, operations and management. The deal is closed. Now we make it perform. Join Storage Moguls. Close clean, operate well. See you tomorrow.